The United States of America in the Marvel Universe is a terrifying place to live in. Infinite kinds of horrible death and continent-spanning destruction are unavoidable byproducts of a world occupied by evil gods, gamma-powered monstrosities, and Henry Peter Gyrick. Possibly the most infamous deadly event in Marvel is the mass death that resulted from the explosive events of the Stamford incident. The disaster caused the deaths of 612 people in Stamford, Connecticut, and changed the face of Marvel Comics for years afterward. But as far as disasters go, Stamford is surpassed by many more terrible events that I want to spotlight on this Lesser Evil special, Worse Than Stamford. A tragedy that nobody talks about is what happened to Bentonville, Kansas, population 919 people. As shown in the 2007 Namor the Submariner series, the unfortunate disaster that is visited on the city of Bentonville spins out of the political conflict between the US government and the undersea kingdom of Atlantis. After years of troubled interactions, Namor the Submariner, King of Atlantis, orders a dozen groups of Atlanteans to blend into the US population as hidden sleeper cells. A 13th rogue sleeper cell is formed secretly by Atlantean traitors, their leader, Namor's long-thought-dead son, Timoran. The terrorists choose as their first target the town of Bentonville. On the day of their plan, Bentonville is celebrating some sort of festival with much of the town out in attendance. While among the crowd, a member of the terrorist cell activates a bomb. The explosion destroys the entire town, killing all 919 citizens. That's 1.5 Stamfords. After hearing about the devastation and being questioned by Iron Man, the current head of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Monarch of Atlantis decides to investigate personally. When the rogue sleeper cell attempts to attack the city of Seattle in Washington with a weapon that suffocates the victims, Namor manages to stop the killer machine, defeating the group's superpowered members and then capturing his errant son. Namor punishes his son by nuking him and Atlantis after dispersing his people around the world. All of this kicked off by the unnecessary deaths of almost 1,000 people a world away. 10 years prior to the disaster in Bentonville, another picturesque city fell victim to a horrific tragedy. Marvel history has forgotten about the town of Springville, Pennsylvania, population 2,601. As shown in the opening story to the Maximum Clonage event from 1995, the populace of Springville become the victims of the Spider-Man villain, the Jackal. This Jackal is actually a clone of the real villain, which is important as he secretly develops a virus that will kill anyone that isn't a clone. In order to test the deadliness of his virus, the Jackal sends his Peter Parker clone, one of so very many Peter Parker clones, to sit on a bench in the city park. The park is abuzz with activity as the Parker clone activates the device in his lap, and the virus begins attacking the respiratory systems of the unsuspecting citizens. The virus is fast-acting and in only 30 seconds proves how scarily lethal it is. The virus spreads rapidly through the town, killing 2,600 citizens, that's 4.2 Stamfords, but had a single survivor. Instead of dying, the survivor, named Raphael, mutates and escapes, learning that his body can now adapt to protect against incoming threats. After learning of this one survivor, the Jackal sends his Parker clone to finish their work. In the woods outside of Springville, the Parker clone, now using the form and name of Spider-Side, hunts the survivor, but finds himself in rematches with the current Spider-Man Ben Reilly and the superhero team, the New Warriors. Spider-Side would eventually manage to steal the survivor away for the Jackal, who conducts a variety of experiments on Raphael, turning him into a rampaging monster, until he is helped by Spider-Man. Raphael would eventually take the name Helix and join the New Warriors for a few adventures before disappearing from Marvel Comics completely. While the people of Springville are gone, their city still stands to remember them. The same cannot be said for Tucker Creek, Montana, as shown in the pages of Uncanny X-Force number 14 and 15 from 2011. Tucker Creek, population 5,301, had its fate sealed when the OG X-Man Archangel caught a case of the apocalypse and took over the mutant tyrant's Clan Akaba empire. After learning that Apocalypse had fathered a secret child by one of his former horsemen, Archangel decides to use the boy, now named Genocide, as a tool for his next experiment. Archangel airlifts Genocide into the town personally and takes time to chat with the locals before leaving Genocide to his business. The son of Apocalypse releases his flaming explosive powers, on the unsuspecting townspeople of Tucker Creek and wipes the area clean, killing 5,000 plus people who lived there, a little over 8 Stamfords. This is only the first step though, as Archangel and his mad scientist Dark Beast plant a cosmically powered life seed that, along with time manipulation technology, creates a sphere 10 miles in diameter that separates the world inside from the world outside. As only 24 hours passed in the real world, inside the sphere 130 million years of creation and evolution occurred. What was the town of Tucker Creek is left in the ancient past to newly developed life. This place would come to be known as Tabula Rasa, and would serve as its own little alien savage land for superheroes to fight in. In tribute to Tucker Creek, a monument is constructed to the town's memory. The last town I want to talk about suffered a disaster with a lesser death toll than that of Stamford in terms of lives lost, but is still surprisingly terrible in its own way. Allentown, Iowa, population 200 plus people, suffers a fate worthy of a James Bond movie. As shown in the pages of Iron Man number 40 from 1980, Roxxon, the insidious multinational energy corporation, constructs a secret space station in orbit over Earth. Its purpose is to gather and redirect microwave radiation from space, then send it to Earth as an alternative power source. An error causes one of those microwave bursts to accidentally strike a spot in Iowa 10 miles in diameter. Inside the affected area was the populace of Allentown. The powerful microwave kills every living creature in the zone. After Tony Stark unwittingly finds himself involved in the situation, Iron Man follows the radiation trail leading from the dead town to outer space, where he discovers Roxxon's space station, and its superpowered guardian who calls himself Sunturian. When the two men disagree about the danger of the satellite, it causes a fight to break out. Their conflict causes great damage to the satellite, causing it to break apart. After Iron Man and Sunturian minimize the damage from the debris, the remnants fall safely to Earth and harmlessly land in the ocean, avoiding even more casualties. In the Marvel Universe, death and disaster can lie around any corner. Always remember, the wonder and amazement of the heroic age of superheroes is balanced by the terrible darkness brought on by the infinite forms of evil. But that's all part of the over-the-top drama we read these stories for, isn't it? Thank you for watching, and enjoy your next Marvel comic book.